Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. Today we are taking a look at how to get started with the Covenant of the Enlightened in Dytopian Wars, how to get started, what to build and how to expand your force in the near future. Now in terms of getting started with the Covenant of the Enlightened, this has to be one of the most straightforward factions to get into. There's two great starting points that you can choose to expand your force. There is no alliance of different nations involved, so pretty much anything can go with anything. All the battle fleets that are available to them are main battle fleets, so you don't have to puzzle around with main battle fleets and specialist battle fleets, and a lot of the elements found in this Orbat really work well together. This means that any future purchases you want to make are 100% dictated by how you want to play and how you want to expand your force, what playstyle you want to have. The only negatives about the Covenant of the Enlightened is that they have a lot of special rules, meaning they have a bit of a steeper learning curve for a beginning player. The first game that you'll play where you get all the small rules right will definitely not be your first. It is a very fun and potent force, which has a bunch of different tech that no other faction has access to, but it is also incredibly unreliable. If you do have to compare them to one of the factions from, for instance, Age of Sigmar or other ones, it would be the Skaven, where you can do a lot of cool things, kick out a lot of damage, but yeah, it might not always go as you intended it to. These guys are, after all, the architects of the dystopian age, the guys who discovered all of this tech and can't wait to try it out, even though it's not been properly tested before. One of the more straightforward ways to get into this faction is of course the faction starter set, which comes with a Descartes ship, which is a sort of a carrier ship that has these whale tokens on them, and in this set all tokens are present because you can upgrade it to also have Orca tokens, which makes it function a bit more like an SRS ship with a long-range launch capacity instead of just an assault ship. It is a tricky flagship, mind you, with lots of special rules such as command code, mine layer and the assault tokens, so it's not the easiest to start using as a new player, but it definitely is a potent one and one that you can upgrade to be quite expensive as well. This Descartes comes with two support sprues, and of those support sprues you can build two cruisers, being the Plinius, the Tacitus, the Quintilian or the Claudius. The Plinius is a cruiser that is basically the carrier for the Enlightened, a very good one at that, and the Tacitus is their heavy assault cruiser, pretty much the heaviest you can get. And I've marked this one in red because this is actually the one that I recommend players start off with. You do need that sort of bread and butter heavy hitter in the center for any list in my opinion, and the Tacitus really does fill that role quite well. The Quintilian is also an option which gives you more of a long-range bombardment cruiser with rocket batteries, which is quite potent as well, or the Claudius, which is more of a niche ship because it functions as your landing vessel within the force and is very cheap and cheerful. The good news is that you can't really go wrong with any of these entries, but you came here for recommendations of course, and the Tacitus would be mine because yeah, that really is a heavy hitter. In addition to the two cruisers, you can also make 6 submarines out of those two sprues, which are either the Praxilla or Diogenes to start off with, and there is no question about which ones you should build as a beginning player, and that is the Diogenes, which is the version that comes equipped with torpedo salvos to give you a great opening punch as well. The Praxilla really is a niche little submarine that needs to ram their opponent before they really start doing anything, and that's the sort of complex gameplay that I do not recommend for a starter set. You will need other ships to combo well with these submarines. In addition to the 2 support sprues, you also get 2 advanced sprues, and you can make 2 assault machines out of this one, which comes really handy because the Orbat has been updated that you can build both one Ketos and one Lotan, and they will always work together as a pair. They are sub-marauders, and one of them can be attached to the other one, and they both work off of each other and give each other buffs, etc. So one of each is the perfect answer for these. On top of that, you can build 2 cruisers, which can either be the Newton, the Origin Lath, the Vesalius cruiser, or the Zemina. And as you can see from the color coding, I recommend you build an Origin Lath ship or a Zemina. The Origin is a repair ship, which is a bit more niche, but it can repair your Mass 1 automata that go into it. And there is one very particular funky build that you can use later down the line, or you can make later down the line, which will require an Origin. It is a mandatory ship to get into the Advanced Research Battle Fleet, and yet you will need one of those. The Zumina is also a support ship, but the one that will boost your firepower of nearby units. And if you're going with Tacitus as well, attaching a Zumina to them can definitely be a force multiplier, which is why I recommend this ship. The good news is you can't really go wrong with the two other ones. The Vesalius one launches these Orca tokens, which will really supplement your Descartes quite well, and the Newton will allow you to do a bit of teleport shenanigans. That one is perhaps not the most suited for this list, unless you want to go against my advice and build the Praxilla submarines, then the Newton would be a good choice to take. And of course the reason why I consider this the perfect starting point is because this set will give you all the dice cards, template rulers, etc. And before we continue with how to expand, let's first talk briefly on how you build a force in Dytopian Wars, because that is info that you will need to know before you can do a proper expansion. Forces are made up of battle fleets, of which you will need one main battle fleet, but I've already discussed this. It's pretty easy with the Enlightened because there are all main battle fleets. And, well, you will have your Descartes as a flagship in the initial box, and then you can sort of fill it out with either mandatory units marked with must, or optional units which are marked with the may word in the different support battle fleets and main battle fleets that you find in the Orbat. Now the great thing is these are not nation dependent. You basically pick a faction battle fleet or a themed battle fleet. The faction battle fleet isn't all that useful for the Covenant of the Enlightened, unless of course you're making an outflanking battle fleet. But that is sort of not always necessary in this force because, well, you've got a lot of teleport shenanigans that you can pull off, and outflanking is something you do, well, during the battle instead of in sort of preparation for the battle like most other nations have to. The themed battle fleets sometimes require a specific ship class, and they are more limited in their flagship options, but they do give some very cool bonuses that you can get in your force if you do take them. And as you can see, most of the boxes that you can buy are sort of revolve around the main flagship that can be found in there, and it'll depend on which battle fleet it can be taken into. For instance, in the bottom right corner we have the Autonomous Research battle fleet. I've already mentioned this one because you have to take an Origin Lath class in there. At least it's sort of on the second paragraph. You must take one of those, and you must take something with the Automata trait. Now, the great thing about it is you get a very cool bonus, Command Override, which gives you a reroll during the battle, but you are limited to the Archimedes class, the Bellerophon class, which is, I believe, the platform, the Chion class, which is the cool submarine you get, and the Daedalus class, which is a sort of a support ship as well, where you can have a bunch of Fortunes of War options. So this is a very good entry, if you ask me. So yeah, how you expand will greatly depend on what you want to add to your force. Now there's a good chance, of course, that you also started with the Covenant of the Enlightened because you got them in the Hunt for the Prometheus box set. Now the cool thing about this box set is that it comes with two flagships, so you immediately have the models to build two different battle fleets if you want to. Comes with the Descartes, which I already discussed, but also with a Hypatia, which is actually a more straightforward unit if you ask me, so perhaps even more beginner friendly than the faction starter set. It comes with shield generators that you definitely want to equip, and makes all of your Mass 2 ships in its surrounding come equipped with those generators, which unlock some very potent combos. The only downside to this box is that you do not really get a lot of Mass 2 ships in there. It's mostly revolving around the 9 automata that come with it. It comes with 3 frontline sprues, which allows you to build 3 different cruisers: the Antarctica, the Copernicus, the Chatelet, the Lovelace, the Stiletto, and the Ulysses class. Now, I have to pick one of these to recommend you, and actually pick the Ulysses class, largely because these 6 cruisers come with 3 variants that are slightly lower armored, which were the ones with the small weapon systems in the back, and they die a bit more easily, so they're less forgiving to run. Now, the other ones that are the full force ones are the Antarctica, the Chatelet that come with it, and the Ulysses class, which is, well, of the 3, I would pick the Ulysses simply because it gives you a small amount of SRS tokens to play with as well, and becomes very heavily armored. It is quite straightforward to play with, and you will want some SRS in your initial force as well, because there are some missions that actually require you to have SRS to pierce through, for instance, Fog of War. But again, the good news is that you can't go very wrong with either of these classes, they all just fit their own very specific purpose. In terms of the mass ones, you can make up to 9 drone frigates, which can be either the Marian frigate, the Germain, the Caden, the Dorian or the Prevost class. Now the only difference between all these three are actually the weapon systems, and well, if they are the new updated sprues that you've got, you will probably have plenty of those to just swap out between the lots of them. But if they don't, I do recommend that you start with the Marian class, or if you just like to glue those turrets down, which I can completely understand as well, then well, Marians would be my go-to pick. The reason why is that these Marians can be very devastating if they get up close to the enemy, and well, one of the more fun mechanics to play with the Covenant of the Enlightened is sort of teleporting midway through the game into the enemy lines, and these Marians can do that very, very well, so I often grab them even if I've got more advanced ships laying around. Now when it comes to expanding your fleet, well, like I've said, the expansions will depend on what gameplay you want to pursue as a player after you've gotten your first few games in. Your flagships determine the type of battle fleet that you want to add to them, and well, from there on out you can do a couple of quick questions to sort of go like, what would be the right fleet for me? You want to go with heavy SRS tokens? Well, you can get the Thule battle fleet set, for instance. Now you definitely want to build the second flyer as a Haunebu, because that one can actually sort of, the Thule can be destroyed and be converted into a fully fledged Haunebu if you actually take that one, which makes it a well, normal combination to make. Of course, if you do not want to go for the UFO look, you can go for the Icarus battle fleet set and build it as an Icarus, which is a very cheap ship for how many SRS tokens it can launch. Do you want to go more for that UFO route? You can of course get the Thule battle fleet set, but you can actually also get the Icarus battle fleet set and then just build it as a Daedalus, which adds Fortunes of War to your force, which allows you to cancel enemy cards, but also has a ship that buffs nearby UFOs, and then just expand with aerial squadron boxes, because well, you'll only be able to make one UFO out of them, but you're not really tied to any limitations on the basis and the type of UFO you want to build like you are with the Thule battle fleet set. And then another thing that the Enlightened can do really well is a swarm of Mass 1 drones. We've already discussed the Marian frigates, but if you want to do that, definitely consider getting a Cheyenne battle fleet set, possibly with the new Aronnax Colossi, not only because of the look, but because they really play well together as well. Because, well, the Cheyenne comes with 6 of the small submarines. You will probably already have either some Marians or some of the Diogenes Mass 1s, so yeah, you can really lean into it with that battle fleet set. Now, just as in my first how to play video with the Alliance, I am going to do a Speed Demon Painting competitive pick. If you want to see what that one is when your own faction comes up, definitely subscribe to the channel, and if you like these style of videos, remember to give it a thumbs up. That really does help with the YouTube algorithm. Now, my more competitive pick would be the Archimedes battle fleet set. First of all, it is a very big box that you get, which gives you plenty of expansion options because you get a bunch of sprues. 2 frontline sprues, 2 support sprues, 2 advanced sprues, and I've already talked about their functionality. You can't really go wrong if you get this Archimedes box. But the competitive edge, in my opinion, lies into the flagship that you get, which is the Archimedes. The Archimedes actually has 2 different named variants that are very good. The first one being the Schneider is a very competitive Fortunes of War ship with some card fishing capabilities. Managing your cards during the game is often something that sets a good player apart from more novice ones, and you definitely have a lot of card play on top of the ability to cancel opponent cards, and yeah, that really can throw a spanner in the works for your opponent's force as well, so that's why it gets my competitive pick. But it doesn't just end there. The second really good ship that you can make is the Arcadian Storm. That one brings an ability called Void Shepherd, and Void Shepherd allows you to teleport a unit before it is actually activated. So I was talking about how well this can pair up with those Marian frigates. Well, this one definitely is one of those ships that can teleport some mass drones ahead of itself, and yeah, basically have them cause carnage in the following turn, which is why I really like this vessel. And a second reason why I like this box so much is that it comes with 2 of the advanced sprues, which means that you can max out your Ketos assault ships, which can then be attached or have a Lothan attached to it, giving you 1 ramming vessel and then 3 coming up with those vicious little Sturginium agitators to really bury an opposing ship in panic tokens as well. And it's a great way to shut down enemy carriers, flagship carriers, if they come unprepared for that one, which is also very fun to do. And then finally, an option you can make is the Autonomous Research Battle Fleet, which is actually the option I have chosen. It includes the Xion Battle Fleet set, and definitely if you wanted to build that one, you need to have built an Origin Lath ship from the Advanced Squadron, and you will need at least 1 Autonomous Surface unit. So you definitely want to check out what your starting point was, and if you have built either the Origin Lath or have those Autonomous Surface units that come with the Hunt for the Prometheus set. So you might want to buy an additional squadron box just to make sure that you have these ships available to you. The new Aranax box isn't necessary to pull this one off. You can just start with the other submerged ones as well, the automata, the assault machines, but it is a very interesting option as well, and it really sort of completes the look as well, which is why I'm going for this one. Now, it is a superbly fun thing to play. You will give all surface and submerged units a very hard time if you decide to run this list, but it has 1 Achilles heel, and that is fighting against aerial squadrons. It has that Mass 1 drone feel to it, but a lot of them are submarines and a lot of them are limited in their range, so shooting down aerial units will be tricky. So gameplay wise you will need to include some anti-air options, but luckily this is where that Plinius can come into play, where you have a lot of SRS options. The Ulysses that I already mentioned that you can make out of the Hunt for the Prometheus is also an excellent option there, because they have anti-air specialists, or the Quintilium Bombard. If you want to run those, they have the rocket batteries with enough reach and piercing capabilities to put a bit of a stress on your opponent's aerial units. But yeah, this is a neat example of how you can take a beginner force for the Enlightened and with just 1 or 2 purchases turn it into a really dedicated playstyle that you can perfectly run and have a lot of fun with, which is the great thing. But that's not the only thing you can do. I also wanted to include this one, a very budget-friendly expansion to your first player, your faction starter set, I should say. And that one is just getting a Hypatia battle fleet set. It comes with 2 more support sprues, which can basically make you a full squadron of Tacitus if you want that one. And if you've attached the Zumina to it, you definitely have a rough power block that your opponent is going to have a hard time against, especially if the Hypatia is buffing it with all of its generator types. And it is a very cheap and straightforward route to a very difficult to stop 1500 point force, so you don't always have to spend big in this game to make something that actually plays quite well. So if you combine that big block of 3 Tacitus along with Azumina and the Hypatia to buff it nearby, you can use your deck card, include the Origin Lath for instance and the 5 Diogenes to have something that is also tricky to take down, because the Origin Lath will repair all of those tiny submarines, possibly of course, if they get destroyed near it, and that's how you can still make a very potent force with not a lot of money being spent, which is the great thing about this game. And there you have it, 3 different ways how you can get started with the Covenant of the Enlightened and make something quite potent out of it as well. Now if you want to get more details about how to expand the force, the different qualities of each unit, definitely subscribe to the channel for when I start doing the Orbat deep dives again. I am leaving those for until the next major campaign is released, so that'll definitely play into it a bit more. I want to see what those missions are like before I start doing the Orbat deep dives again, because they do take a lot of prep work. But if you're looking forward to those videos, definitely subscribe to the channel, and I do hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!